Harwich has something to talk about. As the Harwich Conservation Trust puts its finishing touches on the Robert F. Smith Cold Brook Preserve, they are also celebrating receiving a prestigious conservation award.
The Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition, a statewide organization that advocates on behalf of local land trusts across the Commonwealth, presented its inaugural Open Space Excellence Award to Harwich Conservation Trust for the Cold Brook Eco Restoration Project.
This was years in the making. It was actually probably 12 or 13 years in the planning and then only 1 year in execution. And it goes all the way back to when we acquired the property in 2001. Carver Crowell had been a cranberry farmer, but he had given up farming for several years, and so when we acquired the property, it was already considerably grown over. So our first challenge was to figure out what do we do with this property? We're not cranberry farmers. Can we keep it in production? We couldn't find a cranberry farmer who would lease it because of the stresses in the cranberry industry. So it was a couple of years after that that we started looking at the idea of ecological restoration with the Department of Environmental Restoration. And that's when we started looking at restoring Cold Brook to the original sinuosity. That's the meandering nature of that brook. And that led to conversations with the town, because the town engineers were saying to the town, you need to do something about the nitrogen impairment of Saugatucket Harbor. And that in turn led to the notion that if you hold water longer, that supports natural nitrogen attenuation. And the way we have done this here is holding water longer in the 4 ponds that we built into the property.
It's truly a recognition of the power of partnership, including the incredibly generous donors to Harwich Conservation Trust, our volunteers from all walks of life. They bring such interesting life experiences and professional expertise to all of the volunteer work they do for Harwich Conservation Trust, including at the Cold Brook Preserve.
We kept our focus. We kept concentrating on this, and I mean, COVID was another of the major interrupters in the planning, as it was, you know, virtually in all sectors of our society. But we were able to overcome those things, keep our focus, stay on track, and here we are.
To fulfill this vision of eco-restoration, it's taken over a dozen years of design, planning meetings, permitting, and then eventually the eco-restoration construction. And the cooperation of the town in particular in reaching a shared result that can work for everyone of all ages, especially when we look at the all-persons wheelchair accessible trail access.
The other thing that many people don't realize as they come and enjoy walking the property is the extraordinary detail of the engineering that went into this.
The engineering company Interfluve received the Platinum Award from the American Council of Engineering Companies in Massachusetts, beating out projects in Boston, New York, and Saudi Arabia. Harwich native Nicholas Nelson was lead engineer on the project.
I think of Nick as having a skill of an impressionist painter. I mean, for every little decision that was made, Nick did have an extraordinary vision about how this was all going to work out in the end. And when you think that this started with an overgrown cranberry bog and then finishes with this lovely meandering stream through 4 ponds, and each of those ponds was planned in terms of its location and in terms of its nitrogen reducing capability, this is both a saltwater system down by Hoyt Road, and it's a freshwater system in ponds 1, 2, and 3 of the 4 ponds. Pond 4 is brackish. But their engineering took into account the reality that there's going to be a salt marsh ecological environment on the southerly end of this property, and it's going to be completely freshwater in ponds 1, 2, and 3.
This eco-restoration partnership is important to me because as I was growing up on the Cape as a youngster, I witnessed a lot of dramatic changes, especially during my middle school and high school years. Think of the 1980s building boom, when vast areas were converted to development quite quickly. And that made a substantial impression on me because I witnessed areas that were once wild and that I was able to explore disappear. And so it instilled in me an enduring environmental ethic to try and make a difference with protecting what makes Cape Cod so special. And that's the natural world around us. So this particular award from the statewide Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition is particularly meaningful because it signals that local grassroots organizations like Harwich Conservation Trust can do big things, and again, in partnership with so many others.
This kind of project is important probably primarily for its nitrogen attenuation capability. And to the extent that virtually every town on the Cape, I think Brewster may be the exception, is under a federal mandate to deal with the nitrogen impairment of the variety of embayments that we have on the Cape, ours is one of the first that has taken a water source and first restored it to its sinuosity, but secondly incorporated the hold water longer ponds that enable Mother Nature to do the natural nitrogen attenuation. And there are many, many small streams and even larger streams in other towns on the Cape that flow through cranberry bogs that have now been neglected for the last 10 or 15 years, who can do the same thing there that we've done here in Harwich.
It's humbling, and again, it's really an honor on behalf of so many that work so hard to make this eco-restoration a reality. And a special shout out to our dedicated staff, from Kelly to Haley, Connor, Christy, Eric, Charlie, and of course our dedicated board of trustees.
It's an extraordinary acknowledgement of the importance of the work that we do, but also of the leadership that the Harwich Conservation Trust provides in this sector. I can't tell you how many times I've been at meetings with other folks from other conservation trusts, and when they're dealing with complicated issues, the question is always, what would Mike Lach do? What would Harwich Conservation Trust do? And to the extent that we're able to be a leader in this world, we are eager to fulfill that role, and it's delightful that somebody recognizes it the way the award does.